Welcome back to the Beat the Often Path podcast, where we showcase unusual success stories to help you think outside the box during these highly unusual times. I'm your host, Ross Palmer. Joining me today is Natalie Cola, social media expert extraordinaire. She's managed the social media accounts of everyone from big league DJs to record labels, and now she does social media for Goalcast, one of the most impressive companies in the digital content space out there. If I'm not mistaken, Goalcast has some 44 million followers across all their channels, so suffice to say, Natalie knows what she's doing, maybe just a little bit. But more importantly, she's found meaning and purpose through taking a very unusual path to a very cool career. So here with me today, Natalie Cola. Natalie Cola, how are you doing today?
Discombobulated.
You're discombobulated, I'm discombobulated, we're all discombobulated. We've had enormous technical difficulties because my 1-year-old computer just died out of the blue. So I'm on a new computer. I'm on my wife's computer right now. But we're here. Damn it, we're here.
We made it.
So I'm very glad you could join me. Can you please explain a nutshell, what is it that you do and why do I care about what you do?
It's a good question. I don't really know why you care what I do. My mother asks me this every day. She doesn't really get what I do. But I guess I would say I'm in social media marketing. So I've been in social media marketing for 10 plus years. Before that, I was a teacher. So my education is in education. But I fell in love with social media at the time. Back in 2007, it was very new. And me liking anything technology and internet-wise, I just jumped into it and switched my career focus completely.
Okay, so let's start with the you've always liked technology. Let's explain a little bit more about that. When did you know that was the case?
Well,
because it had to start earlier than that.
Yeah, I guess it was when I was a teenager. Oh, no, actually, let's go back further. I guess it was a kid. And I remember in grade 3, we had the first, one of the first Apples. You remember that small box? It was like tiny screen. And
was it black and white?
It's funny. I don't remember at all. I just remember this tiny box. It was like
we're using like kid pics and
yeah. We were just
that? Brickle.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember the games?
No, I don't remember. I didn't play games, to be honest. I was making books. So I was writing a book, typing it out, printing it, and then doing the whole remember the binding at the time and drawing the pictures. So it was a Mac. It was a long time ago, and I vaguely remember it, but this is when I knew. And yeah, I remember that. I loved everything about it. And then when I was in high school, I had my first laptop, which is a Mac. And I remember when I had internet for the first time and the excitement around the dial-up and like the phone line thing and how exciting that was. And then MySpace and it was pretty crazy for me, and I just always loved it. So I guess it was brewing for a long time. And at the same time, though, I wanted to follow a more traditional path, and I wanted to become a teacher because that was also an interest for me, and it made my mother happy, and she was paying for school. So it made sense, and that's what I did. And I was a teacher out of school for a couple of years. I worked throughout school, substitute teaching.
What subject? What were you teaching?
Well, I was teaching really young children. So like really young, preschool to grade 3. And it was great. But right out of university, I jumped into a managerial position. So I was running a private school in Toronto. And this is where it all fell apart. This is where I was managing teachers who were older than me and more experienced than me. And I had never been in a leadership role before. And that was a big slap in the face. So it lasted about a year. I completed the full year, and then I bowed out. And at that time, I fell in love and decided to move to Montreal. And this is where everything changed.
Okay, so where are you from originally?
Toronto.
Okay. So always within Canada. So it's a very different experience to our listeners who are either in Europe or in the United States.
Exactly.
So 2007, you remember that you fell in love with technology at that point, or that was when was that the first time you thought there's something here that I can do to have a career? Was that your first, or did that come later?
It became much later. I just knew that this was something very special. The ability to connect with anyone across the globe was mind-blowing to me. So the rest came much later.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember, what was it like in 2007? I mean, Facebook was 2004. So what was the climate in 2007?
Honestly,
you knew that Facebook was the next big thing.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't even remember. I have the worst memory. I really live in the moment type person, but I just remember that it was always very, like, do you remember MySpace?
I do. I had a MySpace page for quite a while.
It hasn't died. Like, you can still search someone and their MySpace page will come up right now.
Yeah, I think I have one. I think mine is still there, but I don't know how to edit it. That's the crazy thing. I don't have access to it anymore.
I don't think anyone does.
I don't know what my password is. I think theoretically it's there. And here's the weird part. So I made some songs that I uploaded at that time. I think a couple years ago, I tried to play one of the songs, because I don't have any of these songs. They were made on old computers, which I don't have anymore, or hard drives were lost. I made a ton of songs on my mom's computer, and she wiped the whole hard drive, so all that work was gone. So I was like, I wanted to hear a song that I made just to listen to it. I hit play, and nothing happened. So it's like a shell of what it actually is. I don't think they actually have the media files or whatever. It's just
who knows
sort of thing. Yeah.
Who knows? But I guess in my mind, that was the real beginning that I remember of connecting with other people. Facebook, MySpace, that was very important for me. So I had a thought about that the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, it brought me way back to MySpace.
Did you go into any of those, various chat rooms or any of that? Did you connect with people with those types of things?
I didn't really do the chat room thing. It was more connecting with friends. And of course, I was at the time, there was someone I liked, and, creeping people out on MySpace or Facebook. Like, it's incredible the kind of information you can get about people.
Yeah, right. I think there was that saying that said, like, Facebook accomplished more in 2 years than the CIA was able to accomplish in 100 years. People just voluntarily gave all their stuff.
Exactly.
And, I think we were the first generation. I was the first generation I didn't realize that Facebook came about literally when I was a freshman in college, but he literally introduced, and it was like this whole thing where .edu emails only. So it was like this exclusive club. We posted our every thought on it, and it was just this. And then one day it's like, your mom has joined Facebook. And I said, what the hell? I was like, this was supposed to be, it said .edu only. Like, they just opened it up, and your privacy settings just defaulted to, like, share everything with the world. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't want to share with the world. So then it was the huge rude awakening for me about, like, okay, maybe Facebook isn't the most ethical of platforms, for one. And two, you got to be careful about what you say or post, or that was a whole nother thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it was also, in some ways, the golden era of these platforms, because everything worked. Like, you could just try tactics and they would just work.
Exactly.
So when was the first, like, account that you were building, or how did you morph into either being a side hustle or a job?
Okay. So yeah, it was a side hustle. So when I moved to Montreal for Live, this is a French-speaking part of Canada, and I didn't speak French. So luckily, I got a job teaching English to small children in a private school, and that worked out well. But again, I wasn't happy. And my side hustle at the time was working with a web firm that they were building webs for their clients. And all of a sudden at this time, their clients were asking them, what is this social media? Do I need it? Do I need it for my business? And luckily, it was the right time that I had made friends with the owner of the web design firm. And he, of course, came to me because this is what I was passionate about. And we were talking about it all the time. And he said, hey, I have this client, and he's wondering if he needs someone to do his Facebook and do his Twitter and things like that. And that's how I built a clientele. It was really like teaching myself and kind of faking it till you make it. Is that the term? And from there, oddly enough, like, I had worked on my, at the time, boyfriend's Facebook page and helped to grow his community. And he's a musician, and at the time he had a record label who was very interested in the growth that he had on his social. So when they asked him, he said, oh, it's my girlfriend. And that led to a meeting in Ibiza, oddly enough, that led to a job offer, which then led to me moving to Amsterdam for 2 years to work for a record label of a very well-known DJ. And that's where we met, Ross.
That's where we met. Yeah.
Exactly.
DJ was Armin van Buuren.
Exactly.
Armin van Buuren.
And and I have to say that this is where I really learned a lot, because there was a social media team there at the time, and I mean those 2 years were learning on another level. Not only learning a social media world, but a different culture. But it was an amazing time. I treasure it. I really do, and all the people I've met, and so it was beautiful.
And you got there, I don't know how much before I did, but it couldn't have been more than a year then, I guess, that you started working there, or maybe less. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't remember, but it was really like the launch of me in social media, but in the entertainment world, like which is sorry, my my messages are coming in. And that is a different world, as you know. Like, that's the one thing I realize now, where I am today, and the industries that you are, whether like in social media or whatever you're doing, it's a different world. And I've learned so much in each of those industries that I've touched.
So true. Yeah, and I think that was a good example where we saw, I mean, I wasn't doing the social media side. I was just the writer, basically, and content manager more on the web side, but not the social side. But that was where I kind of saw firsthand the content factory aspect of running a media company. The sheer volume and scale of stuff that had to be put out on many different channels was staggering.
It's incredible.
I mean, how many posts a day on how many platforms? A lot on a lot of platforms, right?
It was a lot.
Do you remember? Do you have any idea what it actually was? It was several per platform per day. 7 days a week.
No. We had a lot of platforms, and it feels like a million years ago to me. But one thing I remember being proud of is A State of Trance channel, like this Facebook page that had a lot of potential but didn't have a lot of love. And I remember the moment when we brought it to 1 million followers, and the champagne, and that was, I think, my first taste of success in social media on a different scale. Like, 1 million followers is a big deal. It's a really big deal. So then you're totally, I mean, Armin's channels were huge, but it was something that I spent a lot of time on. And so to see it grow to what it was, and I haven't even looked to see what it is now, but those are moments I remember for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a huge brand. Yeah.
And certainly from watching you then, I've always been, I would say, more of a creative person than a very organizational person. I didn't know anything about the tools that were available. I didn't know about the scheduling apps until I went to Armada. I didn't know that you could like plan out a month's worth of stuff. Yeah. Because I would see your schedule and it was just nuts sometimes. It's just like, okay, this is what we're going to do 2-3 weeks out, or we're going to go on a break for a couple days. So better have like 80 posts queued up. It was madness.
It is.
And then on the other hand, it was also the first taste that I had where, because they manage such a huge roster of artists, every artist wants the most priority. I remember this. Every artist wants you to spend the most time. They're like, yeah, I know you release 1 million records a month, but I want my record to have the most tweets, the most posts on Instagram, the most. And it was just a very interesting feeling being on the label side and just understanding that a lot of what the artists want was a mathematical impossibility. And there was just sort of that tension there. Because it's like, I just know how many of you there are, how you're all equally deserving, and what you want just simply can't happen. So it was a balancing act, I think.
Yeah, for sure. The label side is completely different than, when you're just working on the artist side, which then I ended up doing later with 2 other artists in the techno world. And this is completely different because you really focused on one artist, and that's it, and everything around that artist. So, and sometimes they have labels of their own. So it's a very interesting world, and it's amazing to me how much COVID has affected that. Because I still work with one of those artists, and everything's at a standstill. Like that. Now it's funny because my side hustle with the music industry is now my side hustle. Like it became my thing, and then it became my side hustle because you form relationships with artists that last a very long time sometimes. So
and you know so many things about them.
Yeah.
So you left Armada, and then what was the next step?
So I left Armada. It was like 2015, and I was leaving. It's a very interesting time because my partner and I at the time were leaving to come back home. We had decided together that it was time to go home. We had an amazing experience, and Canada bound we were. And little did I know that would be the moment that would be the end of the relationship. So the day that we left, I had a flight booked to go back to Canada to sort out our apartment. He was going on tour because he's also a musician, and we would meet back in Montreal. And it fell apart in front of my eyes the morning we had to leave. It was a very difficult time because I didn't see it. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't see it coming that morning. And I went back to Canada, and I was faced with a decision, like, do I go back to Toronto, which is my hometown, or do I go back to Montreal, which has become my home? And I decided I'll go back to Montreal and see how things go. And this was a very low time in my life because I didn't feel very confident. I was like, the person that I had spent 6 years of my life with left me, and I didn't know what to do. And this is the first time in a long time I was on my own, making decisions on my own, taking care of things on my own. And the good news is that I was coming back to Montreal to take on a bigger position in a company that I was still working for while I was in the Netherlands. So I was working for an amazing company here in Montreal called Etiquette. It's a niche fragrance and skincare brand, which was a passion of mine. And I was traveling to Milan to go to the shows, and it was my favorite thing. And so I continued to work with them while I was away. And then I came back to take on a bigger position, but I was miserable because I was heartbroken. However, I figured it out. I bought a home, I settled down, and I worked. And then I think it was a year and a half later or so, that ended. That relationship with that company ended. And it was a downsizing. There were many reasons why that relationship ended, but I mean, we're still good friends, myself and the owner. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Well, I still worked in the music industry, and I was still doing that and still traveling to Europe and going to shows and things like that. So I thought, you know what, this is the time for me to go back to freelance work and live that life, because it's great. It was great not to have a 9-to-5 job and not to juggle many different projects. And so I really focused on that.
But in some ways you never left, right? I mean,
you
never really left. You always had
I never left.
At least one or two other clients on the side of whatever you were doing.
Everything
right?
Like flipped, like side hustle flipped from priority to side hustle. It was always like that for me. And at the time then, it's funny, like a couple of months after that, I met a client that I still work with today, which is a very big DJ in the techno world. And he became my new client. So then I had 2 of the biggest techno DJs as my clients. And this was great. Like, it was great. No problem.
Are you able to say who they are, or is it?
I mean, I can if you want, but I don't know, like, Richie Hahn.
I think it's interesting, but if you're forbidden from doing it, then not.
No, I'm not forbidden at all. I always just wonder how many people know the biggest techno DJs. I don't know. Not everyone does.
Who?
Believe me, you'd be surprised how many people I meet.
But who are the DJs? I didn't hear you.
So you have Dubfire, who was formerly one half of Deep Dish, which I think a lot of people know.
Which I grew up with. I love Deep Dish. Oh man, I was all about that back in the day. Oh yes.
And he's a lovely, lovely person, like amazing. I love Ali. He's incredible. And then there is Richie Houghton, who's a Canadian DJ, amazing human being
and
as well.
The other half of Deep Dish is Sharam. So I knew that, right? I knew all of that. And I know that they were taught by BT. Yeah. I remember when I first moved to the Netherlands, Dubfire was playing at a stage somewhere, and he had that hit that was like, I think it was called like Grindhouse, or I don't know. So it was like, you really want to know?
Oh yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, he's famous for that one.
It was like,
yeah, it was great. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, you're really good at that.
Yeah, I really remember it because I was in a big club. I was like, "What is this?"
Oh wow! When that track
cool.
came on,
So Dubfire, Richie Hahn.
It was
noticeable.
And what's amazing about them is they are truly inspiring artists. Meaning, like they were always trying to take their art to the next level with live shows. I was always inspired by these two. Always the work ethic, the incredible people. So I was really lucky to be able to do that. And then I guess that was 2016. 3 years later, I guess I started to feel like there was something missing. Like I wanted to be part of a team again. The team was missing in my life because I was free.
So you've gone back and forth from liking the freedom of freelancing to liking being in a team to being ready for freelance again. So it's been tough, which I totally understand.
Exactly.
So it's like ping-ponging.
Totally. Or
you just get sick of something after a while.
True. But it's funny. Like I never got sick of anything in particular that I've done, except for the teaching bit. But I realized that I need a balance of both. This is what it works for me. And, as you know, like with COVID, the workspace has become completely untraditional, which is amazing for people like me who need something a little bit outside of the box. So I was really like, okay, something's not right. Let me figure it out. Let me look at other options. I was really thinking about leaving my clients and figuring out something else. And then there was this nagging feeling of wanting to give back, this nagging feeling of wanting to do something good in the world. Because as much as I loved what I was doing and as much as I loved the music, I didn't feel like I was contributing to the world in a positive way. The artists were, because this is their art and artists give to the world that way. But me, I didn't feel like it. So something was missing. And
facilitating that wasn't quite enough. It's not your message. Being the facilitator of the good that they might be doing is not enough. Something I also completely understand.
Totally. So I started to explore. I started to look at job postings and just to see, because one of the things that became important for me, also dealing with the music industry, is culture. The music industry can be quite harsh, and it's not like the kind of culture that necessarily drives me. But I'm really good at not being overly sensitive, and I don't take things too hard. And working in Amsterdam for 2 years, you develop a bit of a tough skin because it's a very direct culture. Which I'm also grateful for because it taught me a lot. But I asked myself, like, what do I want? And if I join a company, what kind of culture does that look like? And I didn't know at the time, but I knew what I didn't want. So I started to look around, and I ended up finding 2 companies that were interesting to me. One was really touching on culinary arts. So it was around restaurants and doing socials for restaurants in the country, and which is a passion of mine, culinary arts. And I thought, okay, this could be interesting. But I also had found another position that was of interest, and I started to interview with them well before I even found this other company. So I think it was in November of 2018, I had my first interview, which was very different than any interview I've ever had. It was more like a therapy session. And then I kind of forgot about it. I didn't take it too seriously. I kind of forgot about it. And then in January, I think I had another interview with them. It was like the second one. And again, it was pleasant, but like a therapy session, and I forgot about it. And then I accepted this job with this other company because like I said, I forgot about it. And that was very interesting because the people who ran that company were not a cultural fit for me. Let's just put it that way. So we ended up going on this incredible trip to Mexico City and eating at the most insane restaurants. that I never would have had that opportunity to. But the trip went south very quickly, and not just with me, but with other team members. And this is where I learned exactly what I don't want in a company. Leadership has become very, very important for me. It's something I'm working on right now for myself, but the leaders of that company, in my opinion, it was a very poor situation. And unfortunately, after that trip, I had an answer. I knew that this was not the company for me. And I took a chance and said yes to a job offer on the other company who had just come back to me and offered me a position. And I thought, wow, okay, the timing is very interesting. But I was still unsure because I had this bad experience. I thought, maybe I should go back to freelance and be the master of my own schedule and this and that. But I decided to give it a chance. And that company is called Goalcast. And it's interesting because it's different in the sense that I didn't know that company had affected me before I had even joined it. So it was, I think, months before I saw a video on Facebook, and it was a video that one of my friends had shared, and I watched it, and it was about, I think it was Sadhguru, who is like a speaker. He was talking about how to raise teenagers, and it was a very interesting video. And for me, I don't have any children, so I wasn't really usually not interested in that stuff, but I really liked what he had to say. And when I joined the company, I realized that was their video. And it was something I had seen before, and probably had seen many of their videos before, but just didn't make the cut.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's something like, I don't know when they first came on my radar. I mean, it was a thing at some point where people would say, even a couple years ago, I feel like somebody would say, you can make a podcast, you can make a Goalcast. I've heard people reference like, you can make a Goalcast.
It's a noun now.
Who hasn't seen those videos?
A verb,
right?
Who
hasn't seen them shared by somebody at some point? So yeah, It's a big deal. So this was the company that the first interview was like a therapy session, right?
Yeah, and what I mean by that is just like they dug deep to understand who I was. Okay, and that's something I've never experienced in an interview before. And for me, this was a test interview for me to see how I would interview again, because it had been so long that I've done an interview. But I enjoyed it so much, and I think, when they say timing is everything, and the timing was perfect for me. It was a time where I started to ask myself some really important questions about my life. And I was in a place where I could be vulnerable. And so I didn't care. I spoke my truth, like I gave them who I was. I told them my story, and that wasn't what they were looking for. That was exactly what they were looking for. And so by culture, I mean, a culture where, you have a growth mindset, you ask questions, you're vulnerable. Like those are all the things that I was looking for, that's what they're looking for. So it worked out really nicely.
How many employees did they have at that time?
Oh my gosh. At the time,
fairly small.
It was small. It was.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
I want to say we were maybe 12 or 15 people.
Not much.
We're about double now, and we're growing. We're actively pursuing. We're looking for people that fit the culture and all. Yeah, like exactly. It's a bit of a slow process, but it's meant to be like that, and it makes sense. And so,
and what was the role? What were you interviewing for? What was the job title? Or
I was interviewing for social media. It was a social media position. That's it. Social media. That's it. And the company is not, we're very linear. So there's not a lot of hierarchy, although it's necessary, and we've realized that. The potential to grow in areas and to wear different hats is amazing there. So you can try your skills at many different things. But for me, it was social media, which made sense. And it was a very small team at the time. It was myself and the person who hired me, and then she went on mat leave, and then it was just me, and then I needed help, so we brought on someone else, and now we're a team of about 4 people, like just on the social side, and then there's the distribution side, and so we're growing very quickly as a company, and it's amazing.
And that's very impressive for the amount of content y'all release.
Yes,
that
exactly.
it is still such a relatively small team, because I feel like you're putting out tons of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of schedule you have, but it's insane.
Well, we have an amazing group of editors and content creators and writers, curators that are able to find the stories. And what's interesting is how different this world is compared to the music world that I came from. It's really like we're telling stories about people who have overcome adversity. Like one of the things we believe in is the power of story. So we know that there are people that, maybe at the bottom of the barrel or in a desperate situation or whatever it may be, or they just want to make a change in their life and they have dreams and they dream big and this and that. And those are the stories that show you that anything is possible, that you can overcome any situation. And if you have that mindset, you have that growth mindset, you can succeed at whatever you put your mind to. So this kind of content has changed me in the way I think. Like, I think I was searching for something like that and I didn't know it at the time. And then it came to me and it changed my life. Like, I have a completely different mindset now than I did a few years ago.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that about their job,
regardless
of the field.
Exactly.
I want to come back to this in 1 second, but I want to just take a quick hiatus here to talk a little bit about the music industry. Because I have a similar feeling about that. And I've been really trying to wrestle with this because since I was 11 years old, before I knew anything about the music industry or the music business, I always loved music and specifically dance music. And even at a very young age, I've always been a very philosophical person. I always appreciated this notion that I could be listening to something that a German producer made, and I'd be hearing the same thing that somebody in South Korea was hearing, and I'd be responding to it in the same way. Especially, I was drawn to songs without lyrics of any kind. Because I think we can all respond to lyrics, but if there's a translation thing going on, it's not going to be the same. Yeah. But I loved house music and early trance music because I knew that all of the people on earth would appreciate and understand this thing, or not, in exactly the same way. And I always felt that there was this amazing power of music, especially non-vocal music, to bring people together. I was fascinated by it. And the first times when I went to raves or shows like that, I remember it was just a group of misfits. All of these misfits got together in a place, and they were so loving. And, I haven't been to Burning Man, but I've been told that Burning Man is pretty much that, but exactly what I loved about it. I planned to go, but now it's on permanent hiatus, so who knows? But in any case, this was kind of the culture that I fell in love with. And later I got more involved in the music industry, had some horrible experiences with people that I thought I could trust, which I'll fully go into at some point, but just got absolutely stabbed in the back in the worst possible way, building a music company at some point. And then I kind of started noticing this other side of the music business. I started getting exposed to the greed and to the arrogance and to, I remember going to some parties in Holland and just seeing these crowds of people wearing aviators, just these horrible douchebags and all of this other thing. And I was like, what happened to that other energy that I fell in love with? What happened to the community and the connection and all of that? And then I started, having this duality where I loved the music, hated the culture. Loved what I always loved, but really hated the way a lot of people behaved, hated the way deals were done, hated the way, my wife or girlfriend at the time was a singer-songwriter, hated the way she was treated by male horrible bosses at labels. It's just so much rotten stuff. So it's just for me, there's always been that thing where it's this is a deep, deep, deep love of mine, but at the same time, does anybody miss working with these people? And I talked to one of my other guests. I don't think he said this in our podcast, but one of my guests said that he hates working with record labels most of all because they never pay on time. They never pay the full amount. They'll pay 90 days later, 6 months later, and they'll always bitch about it. So there's just so much stuff that sucks about the music business. So I get leaving that as I think we both kind of did in some way, was a breath of fresh air to be oh, these people pay on time. Oh, they're there's so many nice things that happen when you leave the music business. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there a little bit on the record, as it were. So it's fascinating that you found something sort of similar coincidentally, and you probably love the people that you know as artists, but
I do,
a lot of things I'm sure you don't miss at all.
Well, I'm like I said, I haven't left completely, but I appreciate the art. Let's just put it that way. Like, yes. I really do. Yeah. And I also I feel for the entire industry right now because it's basically at a standstill. So you have managers and you have, the crew and all the people that are affected by that. And that's what, those are the people I really feel for. So, yeah.
And, I think it really hurts the middle, small people who are just making some momentum. Some people are like just getting started and they just had their first year of touring and then it happens. And I know a lot of people like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But all right. So let's back to the fun stuff. How have you changed, do you think, as a result of this new role? Like what has changed?
Well, I guess, sorry about I have messages that I cannot seem to get rid of.
I don't actually hear it. So
okay, good.
I just noticed it on your face.
I'm always like,
I see the ding.
I guess it just changed me for a better, I'm just a better person. I see things differently. I see the world differently. I see myself differently. I have more confidence. I believe in myself. And that's a big one. Like, I think, a lot of us probably may not have the confidence, or we have a lot of, negative self-talk and things like that. And I know for sure I did. And am I good enough? Am I worthy? And all those things. And this has changed for me. I surround myself with good people, but I also work with good people. And I'm surrounded by content that constantly tells me I am enough. I am good enough. I'm worthy. I can do anything I want to. And the company also encourages that. Like, what is your passion? Like, what is your big dream, And that caused me to then ask myself a lot of questions. So the first year was really challenging for me because being exposed to that kind of content for the first time was a bit perplexing. And I remember there was a moment or a couple of times where I could barely look at myself in the mirror because I was asking myself such really difficult questions like, what have you done? How are you giving back? What is your purpose? Those big questions we all have that I think come at some point in your life. And I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like things that I saw in myself. And I'm probably being really harsh on myself, but there were things that needed to change. And so that's why I say the first year was challenging. But, I worked towards making those changes. I realized that what was missing was giving back, like finding a way to give back, because that's what feels good for me. And so I decided to do a 10-year challenge, which is just very specific to me. It's something I wanted to do, where I would take my vacations, but go and volunteer somewhere in the world and give back somehow. And COVID happened and kind of hijacked the second year. But the first year was amazing because as soon as I decided that, for my birthday, I decided to ask friends and families to donate to a cause that was very close to my heart. So the name of the project is called The Next 10, and it really is about the next 10 years of my life and how I'm going to be of service every year for the next 10 years and document that. So that hopefully one day I can take all of that content and create a little mini doc of the next 10 years from my, this point where I decided to do this. And the first year I decided to volunteer in Southern Africa with a wildlife reserve. And so working very closely with elephants, who obviously are endangered in that area due to poaching, and rhinoceros as well, which is a very ridiculous situation that I won't get into because we could be here talking for another hour. But it was important for me. And it was important for me not just to give money, but to actually go there and do something and live it. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, to go there to a country that is food insecure, that you cannot go to an ATM and take out money if you want. Like, there's so many things that were very eye-opening to me and just made me so grateful for what I have. And just the experience of being so close to those animals, was something I'll never forget. And it felt good to give back. And so when I came back, the high that you feel from doing something like that, wow, it's incredible. And you just want to keep doing it and doing it. Yeah. So
what's next on the horizon then? What was
COVID,
post-COVID, what was your next plan on that journey?
So the first one was me choosing something very close to my heart, but the next one was going to be about my family and friends voting for something that's close to their heart, because the idea is that not everyone can go and take off from work and go and do this. Maybe they have a family or they have responsibilities, and a family vacation, maybe you have only a couple of weeks a year and you want to spend it with your family and do something with them. So the idea is for me to do it for you. So it was going to be whatever was close to the heart of the people that I care about. But obviously that didn't happen. So this year, instead, I decided to volunteer my time with an organization called Giving Tuesday, which is, if you've heard of Giving Tuesday, it happens on December 1st. It's
a new phenomenon.
Exactly. And so the Giving Tuesday Canada.
Day 4 or day 5, I don't even know. It's going to become a whole week soon enough.
It's true. But I volunteered to give my skills, my social media skills, to Giving Tuesday Canada. And that was a marathon event of sharing, posting, scheduling, community management, the whole thing. And it was great. And I met a lot of nice people. And it was the perfect thing to do when I couldn't leave and travel. It made perfect sense because everything was virtual. And so next year we'll see. I mean, the sky's the limit, hopefully, when this is over and we can travel again, but I'm open to anything, really. And there's another 8 years to go, so there's lots of time.
That's awesome. That's super great. So it sounds like, I mean, this is very positive. That's a wonderful thing to hear. I'm very excited for what you do next. It sounds very cool. So I guess, now that you've been doing this for so many years, what are some tactics or advice or tips? I mean, what have you learned about social media since you began? Because it changes week by week, year by year. So what are some thoughts that you have these days?
Okay. So for me, what became really, really important was working for a company or brand or artist, or whatever it may be, where you have freedom to experiment and try things and fail. Try and fail. That's how you learn. The more you fail, the more you learn, right? And so I may not have had that opportunity in the past as much as I do right now. And the learning curve for me, I feel like happened in the last few years, especially with Goalcast being a media company where we are dealing with video content. Video content is a whole other world, and distributing video content. And I've learned a lot, but the things that I've learned, I think, can be applied to any industry, which is having the courage to try new things, right? Thinking outside the box, going above and beyond, being an A player, basically. This is what the advice I would give to anyone, whether they're in social media or whatever job they're doing that they're passionate about. Find a place where you can experiment, find a place where you can continually fail and continually learn from that and apply that learning to the next thing so that you can next level that.
Definitely. And what have you noticed in terms of trends about what works? I mean, what works, what doesn't work?
Trends.
Is there a formula?
I don't think there is a formula. I think it really depends on the industry or the industry that you're in. As you said, social media is changing all the time. And I guess the best advice I could give anyone in that industry is to constantly stay on top of things, keep learning. Right now, I'm learning TikTok. I'm really deep diving into that. That's a new platform.
I dove into it for a good bit of time. It's a new frontier, that's for sure.
Totally. And
now we have Clubhouse.
Clubhouse is another one, exactly. But I love it. I love TikTok so much. And I find myself addicted to it and just consuming. At the same time I'm consuming, I'm learning. I'm learning what's working. What works for this person, what works for that person.
Yeah.
The best advice I can give you about any platform is use it, try it, do it, experiment. That's it.
Yeah, I dabbled in TikTok for a good bit, but I haven't yet found my stride there because I did some vastly different types of content there, and I'm kind of switching to be less satirical and more serious. But I haven't really found I kind of stopped. I posted a lot on TikTok, but then I kind of stopped, and I want to get back into it. But
it's great.
I don't know what to do there yet. I'm not sure yet. I have to figure that part out.
Well, video content is king. Edutainment, whatever you can make that is edutaining, I guess, edutaining, is going to work quite well. And stories, the power of storytelling. It's amazing.
Is Goalcast on TikTok? I mean, it makes sense. I didn't know that yet.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep. We have 2 channels.
Okay.
Cool. We have
When did you start that?
It was probably about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. I don't remember. But when we became active on it is quite recent. And we have 2 channels. We have Goalcast, which is, our main, we'll call it our main channel that covers any kind of content from inspirational speeches to short documentaries, which is what we're moving into now. So stories about people you might know, overcoming incredible obstacles. And then we have another channel that's more celebrity focused called Life Stories. And this channel, if you think about it, think about TMZ, but in a positive way. So like we talk about the celebrity stories with an uplift. Well, there's always scandals, right? But it's celebrities who have either overcome something or they're coming from a situation that is, you didn't know or is less desirable, and they've made it, or they have come out a better person because of it, and they're sharing their learning. So it's stories always like that.
Okay, so here's then a follow-up for that. Oh, first of all, how many followers on the main account on TikTok?
Oh gosh, can we not use TikTok because that's a new account?
Oh, okay. I mean, I know. Okay, well, let's preface this whole thing with there's millions and millions and millions. I'm just curious, where is it at?
How about across all of our platforms, we have close to 40 million followers.
Okay, which is
impressive.
I have a few more myself, but I mean, you guys have room to grow.
Yeah, I would say though.
My mom has 45 million accounts. No, I'm just kidding.
I would say go to YouTube if you want to watch full stories, because TikTok is not going to be a full video.
So this was exactly what I wanted to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was kind of going hard on TikTok, I would write these very fast-paced 1-minute scripts, which I just tried to pack with jokes just about a topic, because it's always been difficult for me to put a lot of a message into a minute. Unless, obviously the people who do like funny things where it's like, oh, I'm Zach King, or like you're jumping into a pot of coffee, or like some visual gag, right? It's hard to get a lot of verbal or other that's not visual content into 59 seconds. So how do you put these complicated stories? What's the 59-second edit? What's the thought process?
So basically the content teams create the story, right? Usually it can be anywhere from 7 minutes to 11, 12, 13. It depends on the story. Like, we really believe in telling the story as it needs to be told. So in terms of time frame, it's a little bit all over the map. For TikTok, which is a challenge for us because obviously you're limited to 60 seconds. Apparently 3 minutes is rolling out, but we haven't seen that yet. But some of the things that what I'm doing right now is really sharing our teasers. So we do create teasers for all of our videos, and that is.
So it's not self-contained, which is another argument that I wanted to talk to you about. Okay, so it's referential, because I've always been of the school of thought that nothing should be referential in the modern social media. Like, everything should be self-contained, right? Because if I tell you, hey, look at this, but this is just reminding you to go check out my podcast, or this is reminding you to go check out my YouTube video, I've always felt like that is sort of the old way.
Yeah.
But a lot of successful people do that. Like, that's what Mr. Beast does. All he does is like, hey, check out my new video, right? Or he doesn't even try. And people do. So it works for like some people, but I've never found a way for TikTok yet that works for me. Because when I do like a long form piece of content, either you chop out a minute and then you miss all of the nuance, and then it's just really hard for that minute to be exciting and engaging.
Yeah.
And then the people on TikTok are like, okay, what is the boring? Like, skip, right?
Right.
Or you have to make something specifically for the 1-minute format, which is time consuming. And then, I don't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to specifically making like TikTok videos. But yeah, so you do mostly teasers then.
Well, we're experimenting with a few different things. So our teasers are really good. So it works well.
I have to check it out.
Yeah, check it out. And sometimes I'll take a portion of the video which is like what we call the uplift or like the takeaway from it all. And that works quite well too. So it just depends. It really depends on what I'm feeling, I guess, at the time. It's a bit of like taking our content and reformulating it in a way. The teaser is the easiest way to do it, especially when we have new content, because if people want to watch it, they will. I've also tested posting the teaser and then posting the video in parts. So like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. And always like the call to action is to swipe to watch part 2, part 3. And that works sometimes too, but I think the teasers are working the best right now. And we're telling people that they can watch the full video on another platform if they want. So yeah.
How many do you try to make per day on
TikToks? Well, not that many right now. Like we release a few times a week a new video, and then we'll share an older video. Yeah. So it's
because you notice, like, if you listen to Gary Vee, he's like, you need to be posting 8 times a day on TikTok. I'm like, how on earth am I going to do that?
It's very challenging. You need like a big team to do that. Yeah. Also, I think it's important to figure out if your content works with a certain audience. Like a TikTok audience is completely different. And right now we're in an experimental stage where we're testing things out. We're just trying to see like what's going to stick. What does this audience like? And we definitely have content that audience likes, but it takes a while to figure out, your formula. So
can you summarize, how do you feel in your mind? And this is going to be very anecdotal. How do you feel in your mind about the various audiences on the various platforms? Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. Say a piece about each audience. What do you associate with each one?
Oh gosh, I don't know, and I think that would get me into trouble.
But you have feeling they're different, right? You don't look at TikTok audience the same way you do as Instagram or LinkedIn. So like, okay, without being negative or weird or whatever, but like what?
No, it's very different for sure.
What do you think? Yeah, like what is a thought that goes through your head for TikTok people will like this, but LinkedIn people will not like that?
Yeah, it's true. We're figuring all of this out right now, but I guess I would say like our tried, tested, and true audiences on Facebook. This tends to be an older demographic. TikTok we know it's younger, but it definitely has potential to be older as well, but we're going to stick on the younger side for now. So I'm selecting more of our celebrity content that I know younger people will like Billie Eilish, J-Lo, Lady Gaga, things like that. And that's great. LinkedIn is a bit more serious, like we tend to share more, short documentary style articles that we have on our website, motivational, inspirational speeches, things like that. Snapchat continues to be a mystery to me. I mean, it's not my favorite platform. I'm not a fan at all, but I'm not giving up on it. And then, Pinterest, you have a whole other, like, it's different. And like, I think that's one of the challenges of any brand is like figuring out where your content fits. And it, in a way, takes trying to throw it everywhere and see where does the spaghetti stick on the wall? What is it that works? I think Twitter is another really interesting example where, like, it's more informational. So people go there for information and certain videos work better than others. And like, I constantly ask myself, should we be posting more articles there? Like, what is it that's going to work there? And we have a healthy audience as well. So I don't have a preference for one versus the other, I have to say. I really don't.
Yep.
And
here's another question. So in the early days, I remember this even back in the Armada days. In the early days, when people were building an audience, everybody had a feeling like this audience is something that I own. You reach your first 1 million followers or something like that, and you had a feeling like I can now connect with my audience. But we witnessed, even in 2014, like the systematic going down of engagement and reach, organic reach dropped so significantly. It's like I got 1 million followers, but this post is only going to get like Yeah, you reach like 100 people. It can be absurd, and the statistics will bear out that it's just been going down and down and down, especially on the Facebook-owned platforms. Instagram, the reach goes down and down and down and down. Organic becomes harder and harder and harder. What do you think about organic versus paid?
I'm big on organic. I really believe in organic.
You still all right? So you're still.
Yeah.
You still believe that even if you reach, 0.1%, it's still worth it? It's better than nothing?
I do, because I don't believe that there's much value in trying to pay for views, because this is like our goal, right? Is to get views. If content is really good, has viral potential, it will go viral without putting any kind of paid advertisement behind it. That's what we bank on. We bet on that video to go viral. And we've seen it. We've seen it time and time again. Facebook is, yes, the algorithm has changed many times over the years. And, we're being slowly boiled into this situation where we're not able to reach as much people as we used to be. I mean, we have a huge audience on Facebook, but what we continually see is that when the content is good, it goes viral and people share it. And Facebook now has really switched to become more of a YouTube type of platform. They're really prioritizing video content. They're providing us with tools to be able to test our videos, A/B testing tools, which is quite new. It's I don't even think it's 6 months old, that we're using all the time. But again, it's always about the content. If the content is good, it will perform, and we don't have to pay for it. And that you shouldn't have to if your content's good. That's what I believe.
Love it. That's a great sentiment. All right, well, we're coming down to the close here. Really cool stuff so far. I hope that somebody out there is paying attention, because there's a lot of gold if you're looking for it in this episode, I think. All right, freelance versus company. Quick thoughts.
Ooh, okay.
Freelance versus employee.
This is so hard, because if I didn't work for Goalcast, I would say freelance. But because I work for Goalcast, I would say company. Culture is the most important thing. If you have a cultural fit, company is going to be amazing. Always have your side hustle. Side hustle is going to give you that balance, because you control that, you do. But the cultural fit in a company that allows you freedom, this is the key. You decide your schedule. You decide what you're going to do. You decide. And when you have that freedom, you overperform always. Also, nice. A company that allows you to buy shares in the company is also very nice.
Ooh, very good. Yeah,
because the mentality is that you own the company too. You feel like you own it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. That's really good. Okay. Finding balance. What's the secret?
I struggle. I struggle very, very much. I struggle. The big lesson I learned last year is working smarter, not harder. So I have been known in the company as the person with a lot on their plate, which is true. It's so true. And I was running myself into the ground, burning out, until I finally decided to tap into the idea of delegating. And, when you think you can't, you can. And I just started to hire freelancers to work on the team and build a team and build the support that I needed. And this is where it gave me time back. Multiply your time by delegating, figuring out what you can delegate, what you can't, prioritizing. This is the biggest thing I learned last year.
Awesome. Okay. Then oldie but goodie here. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Oh, best piece of advice I ever received. That's a really good question. I guess this is going to sound really cliche, but find what you love and make money doing that. I guess that would be it. Like, figure it out fast. Like, I'll throw a wrench into this. So as much as I love my job, I have this passion about dogs and training and dog grooming, which is so weird. And it just kind of hit me recently. And I have this like dream of opening up a dog grooming salon in my neighborhood, because I think it's needed. Number one, there's an opportunity. Always look for opportunities. And number two, I'm such a lover of animals and dogs, and this would be a passion for me, and it would be a side hustle. And yeah, so I would say find what you love to do. Money. Yeah, exactly. I love to be busy. So stay busy doing what you love.
That's a great way to end. So to wrap this thing up, I will give the floor to you. Anything in particular that you want to promote or draw people's attention to at the moment?
I don't necessarily want to promote anything, but I will say.
I mean, obviously follow Goalcast everywhere everything.
Check out Goalcast. You probably already know and you've seen these videos. Yeah. If you watch,
they get forwarded to me all the time.
Exactly. I watch a Goalcast video every day and it makes me feel like motivated and confident for the day. So if you feel like you're lacking in that department, check out the videos. They're short videos and you will definitely feel better after you watch it.
Sounds good. Cool. Will do. Well, thank you very much for sitting down and chatting. I think it's been really awesome. I hope you had fun.
I did. Thanks. It was great to see you again and chat with you.
Yes. So with that, the podcast is officially over. Thanks for listening to the Beat the Often Path podcast. If you've been enjoying this show, please like, comment, share, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to me on YouTube. It would mean the world to me. Also, do you have an unusual success story or do you know someone who does? Well, please recommend them to me. They could be a future guest on this show. Maybe they've rolled the largest boulder down the mountains of Tibet, or maybe they built the world's largest chicken farm in Madagascar. The point is, I don't know what I don't know, so I'm looking for inspiration and unusual success stories. So help me by being a part of this adventure. I'm looking to grow this podcast with you. Thanks again for listening.